Good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to spend this short time with you, sharing ideas and thoughts about what's going on in the fashion industry right now. Before starting, of course, even if I work almost every day with a designer from Cameroonian origin, Iman Aissi, my point of view is global. So I will talk about the global means mostly the Western fashion industry, but not only. And so for you, it's more, I think, in a export perspective. Even if the idea is to try to analyze some recent success that also can be just a subject of reflection and for any kind of new brand and new business. So the question is keeping with the time is needed to meet success, is just an opportunity to meet success, and if it's enough to meet success. That's what we try to answer. The first thing as an introduction is just to remind you that fashion is not something that just comes from nowhere, or it's just decided by, I don't know, few people that would decide what you will wear the next season. It's truly and deeply connected with, of course, different and complex elements, but included especially social organization, relationship between men and women, culture, and so when there are strong social changes, of course, fashion is also changes. And more than that, it's not just a reflection or a translation of what's going on at one moment in a society. It's sometimes fashion is also giving a vision of what's just starting, and some social changes that are sometimes very difficult to understand, to analyze, because they are just starting or they are just at the beginning, become clearer when you analyze them through fashion, for example. And fashion can also sometimes amplify them, so that's why they become more visible. So, and for example, fashion historian or sociologist, when you understand all the elements that create new trends and everything, it's sometimes a good way just to analyze what's going on in a society, you know, because it makes it more clear, you know, and visible. But of course, it's also an industry, and it's a very, very competitive industry right now. And so every season you have new brands emerging. Actually, very few of them will last for years. So the question is also to emerge and then to last. And so to emerge, but also to last, it's very important just to stay connected, you know, with the zeitgeist and the mood of the time. And actually, it's also a very cycle industry. It's based on cycle that, I mean, could last many years. Usually, it depends of this cycle, because it's also connected with culture, with social changes and everything. But it can last like usually around 10 years, something like that. And so when we enter in a new fashion cycle, it's the opportunity for new brand to emerge. But when we are at the end of this cycle, what happened for this brand? And for example, 10 years ago, we saw a new main inspiration, or the comeback of the street culture. You know, after 10 years of main inspiration coming from, I would say, if we are talking about music, but globally, a young culture. It was really connected with the comeback of rock culture, and after 10 years, new changes and the comeback of something was very important in the 90s and everything, was this street culture and the comeback of streetwear. So it has affected really the fashion industry because it needs to reshape all the product, the volume, the way you mix garment together and everything. And of course, from that, it was the opportunity for some old heritage brand to be revamped or revived, like Balenciaga, with a new art director coming from this street culture, and it was huge success, but it was mostly the opportunity for new brand to emerge. And I put like some example here of this brand. Maybe the most famous one is Off-White, who started, I mean, all the designers who launched this brand started to work in the hip-hop industry in the United States, just around I mean, singers like Kanye West and these kind of things. I mean, all of them, they come from that. And they were, of course, they made success. The question is that now we are at the end of this cycle. There are some different elements. So what happened for this brand, And some have disappeared, like Hood by Hair, just disappeared. Some are not in a very good position. It's like Off-White. And Off-White, I mean, LVMH, so the owner of Vuitton, Dior, and everything, has bought quite important share of the brand when the founder of the brand became Virgil Abloh became the art director of Vuitton, and they just sold that, So when LVMH sold a brand, it means that, I mean, it's not very good for her, for it. And some just managed to adapt and their identity, not really their identity, but at least their style, while still keeping on with their identity to something which is more connected with the current mood. And I think it's the case of Fear of God, who made a very interesting shift, because you can still see the street style, the streetwear roots, but with something which is aligned with this new, huge movement that we usually call quiet luxury or minimalism and these kind of things. And they managed to organize this kind of mix of this once again their past identity and something very new. So, but that's, I would say, also a bit the life of trends in fashion, in the fashion industry and everything. Of course, there are some, I would say, okay. And another example with that is that even when we are at the end of a cycle, it's also the opportunity for some brand also to emerge. It's the case from this Danish brand called Elliot Emil, who also tried to recreate a kind of new style, a mix of streetwear but more urban style and things like that. But as I said, there are some maybe deeper changes that are new opportunity to create something new. Of course, at the moment, one of the most important one, and that's really, affects almost everybody, is the question of sustainability. And of course, it's really a question that affects also the fashion industry, because the fashion industry produce a lot of waste, is very polluting and everything. So that's really something that also affects consumer or question consumer and everything. And so some brand, instead of seeing or question as restrictive or something that would affect their creativity or would make more difficult the idea of launching a new brand, at the opposite, they found it as the opportunity to create something new and to base their identity on this. The most famous brand and the most successful one at the moment is Marine Serre. I don't know if you heard about her. She's a French designer. What is interesting is that, of course, when you launch a brand connected with all this questioning, it can be or purely intuitive, and usually, I mean, most of the designers, they work in this intuitive way, and it could be a bit more analytical. And I don't know exactly what happened for Marine Serre, but she really started to apply for international competition, like the LVMH Prize, the Festival d'Hier, and things like that she won, and she won almost everything because she, at the beginning, was a talented designer. But at the beginning, she was really not very concerned by this idea of sustainability. It came later on, and I don't know how it was. The result of analysis of what's going on in the society or not, but then it's not something that was really at the beginning connected deeply with her. But then she really created the identity of a brand based on that, and how just with a simple idea that she didn't create, and she was not the first one to do that, to the idea of upcycling, the major part of her collection are just made of old fabrics, dead stock, old, towels. She can use almost everything to do this garment. It's, I said it's very competitive industry at the moment. It's an example of a quite incredible success story. She started officially in 2017, so like 8 years ago. And from scratch, with, of course, she earn some money from the different prize she wins and everything, the competition she wins. But now, 8 years after, I mean, the sales, estimated sales are about $30 million. So it's quite incredible. And it's a profitable branch. She makes quite a lot of money with just this idea. But actually, it's maybe not just this idea, because of course, once again, she's not the first one to do that and the only one to do this. Yes, is that she succeeded to create a very unique style and aesthetic. I just show you a video, which was actually a video to present, a collection. It's a few years old. I just let you watch a few minutes, and we can discuss after. So, just to give you an image, so what is interesting is that here she succeeded to create a very strong style, aesthetic, which is completely connected to what she said about sustainability and everything. Because what this video is about is the future, which is not that seen in a very positive way. There is this aesthetic of the end of the world, all the questioning about, of course, ecological issues, but also place of robot, what could be the place of human being in the future. Everything is there, and of course she take is aesthetics from science fiction TV shows, from video games, scary movies, and everything. So all this young culture that make her, a star amongst the young creative generation. So that's also. So it means that just be connected with questioning is maybe not issue. What is important is that you have your unique point of view. But also what is interesting is that if she had only this quite negative, point of view, I'm not sure it would be so successful. Because at the same time she developed this kind of very dark aesthetic, she also developed this kind of video, which are now really part of her identity, which are just video to show how these upcycled garments are made,
Tutto sotto e basta. Ok.
So these videos are also very important for identity because it's a kind of answer to the previous one, a kind of solution of this very dark future that may become. And it's also a way to, because what is very important now, and especially for the young generation, is this idea of transparency. If you say something about your brand identity, you have to prove it, and especially when you say I'm sustainable, at a moment people don't just trust you. You have always to prove it. And it's what she does with this kind of video. And once again, being transparent, because we can see it's not 100% sustainable. There is waste and things like that. But on the other hand, you see that, how it's made, that it's made by very skilled lady who seems quite happy to do what they are doing. It's almost unique pieces. There are unfinishing and everything. So it's also a way really to justify the fact that it's a luxury brand and that she sells to quite expensive price, for example. So it's, I think she found a very interesting way to communicate about a brand. Another example of a brand based on this idea of sustainability is Body. It's an American brand founded by this young lady called Emily Body. And it's a bit the same idea. She does a lot of upcycling, but she's also reproduce old fabrics in sustainable fibers with artisan and everything. But you see, it's a completely different style and aesthetic. She's more inspired by the past, not really by the future. She really inspired by also the history of the United States and she developed this very specific, what we could call the Amish, style, and be inspired by the pioneer of the United States in the 19th century and everything. So something totally different. Or another example would be, so that's the kind of product she sells, which are not, that easy. And when you see just the product, you can have the feeling that it's really for a niche market. It's not like the average American ready-to-wear. But still, because she has this strong identity and she's still connected with this issue, she's very successful, especially in the United States. Another example of, the fact that even if being connected to one questioning doesn't lead you to a specific style or aesthetic. Of course, you have to bring your own point of view, and you can develop, different aesthetic from that. It's this designer from Switzerland called Kevin Germanier. Whose identity is also based on this idea of sustainability, because it's the same thing. Everything is upcycled, and he worked with old theater costume, for example. So he used a lot of beads. He made a lot of knitting from old fibers, everything. And of course, it's a completely different point of view, especially if we compare with Emily Body, because here it's all about, flamboyant style, colorful things, a fun point of view on fashion. And of course, we can discuss also the real sustainable side of his brand, because it's mostly made of, plastic beads or polyester, but since it's upcycled, you can always discuss. So few examples, of course there are many more, but few examples to show you that you can once be connected to a question and then develop your own point of view and in very different way. Another example, but it's another French designer called Jean Friot. They are all at the moment very, especially in the Paris Fashion Week, they are all very famous because of that, And another one who has also his moment of celebrity, especially because she made this top made of old spoons, actually, for Kate Blanchett with Odakova. She's from Sweden. And it's the same thing. It's still about upcycling and everything, but with another style, very more austere, more Scandinavian and amber with no colors and everything. So you can have really different aspects from that. And here, maybe you have also different example. I think the most famous one, and maybe one brand which is known abroad, especially in Europe, for this work on sustainability is Quo, and also because she also succeeded to develop a very recognizable and unique aesthetic and style. It's not only this idea of upcycling or sustainable product. And now this idea of sustainability is not only the idea of ecological fibers or product or upcycling. What is, I think, important in the Western fashion industry is to reconnect consumer with human-made products, when everything is industry-made, sometime very far away from the place you buy the product, to be reconnected with human being, with something which is human-made, is also important. So we see now a new interest into craftsmanship, developing specific know-how and everything. And few examples of emerging designer whose brand are not sometimes sustainable, and it's not the content of their identity, but really what they show is this idea of craftsmanship. And for example, one with, I mean, very hype at the moment. It's also a French designer, but she's based in London, and she just won the LVMH prize, which is really, I mean, something that is very helpful also. She's Pauline Dujancourt, so she's doing a lot of crochet, hand knitting, and these kind of things, with also very specific, you know, aesthetics, a bit destroyed and grungy, but at the same time, quite feminine and romantic and these kind of things. Another example, interesting, it's still in London, just to show you that, of course, when we think of craftsmanship, it doesn't mean that it has to be raw or something like that. And actually, in the Western world, we linked more, you know, the idea of craftsmanship with, at the opposite, perfect finishing, and because it comes also with this tradition of haute couture. And here, of course, it is in London, it's doing ready-to-wear, but of course with a lot of relationship with this idea of couture, using very couture technique, like using bias fabric, this kind of thing. So it's a new craftsmanship, but like perfect craftsmanship. And we see that also, for example, with the success that made Lisa Folawoyo also especially in the United States, where she still has stockists, you know, in the United States. It was also this idea that you can feel, you know, the craftsmanship and the fact that, you know, some people spend hours beading the dresses and everything, and that make them, of course, precious and also very, I would say, very human. Another example of this comeback, you know, of human-made product and the interest for that is the new, I would say, the rebirth of haute couture. I would say, like, I don't know, 15 years ago, this exceptional part of the fashion industry was seen as, you know, completely old-fashioned, not connected with the way of consuming right now, and there is a new energy, you know, and haute couture is not dead anymore, and we see especially the designer really from the young generation choosing to work in this part of the industry, so making garments that are just made to order to avoid dead stock and everything, overproduction and things like that. Usually made to measure, but also with this idea of perfect finishing, but something which is unmade, you know. So it's the case of Charles de Villemorin, who is the little star of the Paris Fashion Week at the moment, or the designer I work with, who is from Cameroon, so Iman Aissi, who it chose really haute couture, because it was a way also to fight against a kind of cliché attached to African fashion, which is that it's a bit raw, not really well finished. So using typical African materials, fabrics, handmade fabrics, embroideries, with this idea that, you know, from that you can do something which as luxurious, as well finished as, you know, any kind of haute couture made by Dior or Chanel and everything. And of course, you gain a lot of visibility from that. Or another African designer, but it's more for North Africa. It's this Sarah Shrabi. She's from Morocco with the same idea, using very traditional handmade garment, using traditional know-how about embroideries and everything to make this also something which are completely contemporary, with a very contemporary aspect and mood and everything. Another issue that is apart from all this questioning about sustainability, industrial product and things like that, that is at the moment very important in the Western society, is the question of definition of masculinity, and what is to be a man, And it's very interesting that, of course, in some other part of the world, it's maybe not a question. You have to keep in mind that there is a very important moment in I would say, European history. It's not only fashion history. It's what English psychologists call the Great Male Renunciation. Is the fact that at the end of the 18th century, beginning of the 19th century, men in Europe, and so everywhere in the Western world, decided to renounce to what make fashion a bit fun. It means old decorative effects, embroideries, lace, colors, jewelry, which were actually the average style of the aristocrat until the end of the 18th century. Then it became impossible for men to wear that, and being a man was just meaning from that time wearing a practical, sad, austere garment. It means black suit, So, and of course, it has evolved a bit, but still, it's very deeply rooted in our brain. Being a man, it's not wearing fun garment, and of course no jewelry and everything. But of course, it's not what happened in Europe didn't happen everywhere in the world, and in the rest of the world, in Asia, of course, on the African continent, in North Africa. Wearing colors, embroideries, or these kind of things has nothing. Is not incompatible, or is not opposite the fact of being a man, And so now, of course, we are in a hyper-connected world where we know everything from everywhere, and everybody is also inspired by what's going on, everywhere. And so, in the United States, in Europe, your Afrobeat stars who are used to wear incredible garments in their videos and everything. Of course, they are also inspiring new designer, but also new consumer and everything. And we see in the new generation really more freestyle now, and a new generation of consumer who want to have the same fun as women when they get dressed, Of course, it's not the entire market, of course, and usually it's this part of the market of people working in creative industries. They are, all these guys, they are all, art director, working in art and that, but still, we see that it's a new demand of the new generation. And of course, there are designers who try to answer this new demand and this new shift, and who have, created new brand based on that. So in Paris, the most famous one, and is very famous, and he has an incredible fan base, is Ludovic de Saint-Cernin, who is very famous right now, so famous that he was the guest designer invited by Jean-Paul Gaultier to create the last couture collection. So gain also even more visibility and success and everything. With a very specific style and something which is what is showing, and which is quite shocking, I would say, for most of people, is that actually men can be also object of desire, and so as also to be sexy and desirable, and it's not something just for women. And I would say his success come from this that is maybe touching something very taboo, actually. So he has really created his brand on this, new aspect and new definition of masculinity. But I mean, in the new generation, especially in Paris or in London, there are, plenty of designers who try to imagine another kind of menswear, more fun and things like that. This one is from Spain, and of course, is also looking at his own roots and tradition, and he has developed this brand based on the idea of flamenco, so this traditional Spanish dance and music. And starting from this traditional costume used by dancer, he also developed this brand. Another one who is from Turkish origin, so especially his father was a very skilled tailor, so he learned all this way of doing perfect garment and everything. And so he's doing this kind of couture style for women, but just he apply, the same know-how and haute couture tradition to menswear, using the same beautiful fabric like satin and things like that, creating something also a bit disturbing, but it's just that this idea that men also deserve, to have the same level of sophistication and everything. And another interesting case is Luciano Mdingi, who is from South Africa, who won also the LVMH prize a few years ago, was invited by the Paris Fashion Week, so to be part of also the Fédération de la Mode et de la Haute Couture trade show and everything. And of course, there are maybe many reasons of this success and the fact that he was invited, but I think also the completely new point of view he gives on menswear with more colorful garment, this mix of sportswear with also different, but mixed with different kind of garment, the use of quite unusual products like kid mohair and things like that, soft fabrics for men, was also I think a big part of his success. Apart from that, another important issue in our contemporary society is this idea of inclusivity, and especially this inclusivity of every type of body. Maybe for you, it's not a question, In Europe, it's a very touchy question for two different reasons. The first thing is that there is a social point of view on, body type, and it's still very seen as positive to be thin. There is a lot of reason to do that, but it's still that. But maybe more important is the fact that we are in, all the garments we buy are industry made and are ready to wear. And of course, it's very difficult and costly when you are doing ready to wear, but just for technical reason, to make a very wide range of products. The way you made different sizing and everything make it very difficult. So that's why most of the brand, they just decide not to spend too much money for a small part of what they consider as a too small part of the market for them. It's just to choose their range of sizing, But that's a problem because, of course, now everybody, every individual think that everybody deserve, to have the same style, to be able to wear whatever he or she wants. So there is a kind of incompatibility with this industrial system, this ready-to-wear with standard sizing system, and this idea that every type of body could wear whatever he wants. It's a very touchy issue, and I put this example of Jacques Mus, because Jacques Mus on his show is doing everything well with people from all over the world, with different skin colors, different body type, and everything. And for example, for this show, it was absolutely perfect. The casting was absolutely perfect. But then he just posted on his Instagram this picture of the team who organized the show. And what we can see of the team, they are all white, thin, and young, So it's a bit like, this idea of sustainability. If you say something about your brand, or if you show something, it has to be the reality, and it's not just a surface. Another example is this Versace dress, which was made, for this plus-size model and everything. But afterwards, it was discovered that the dress was not produced in that size, so it was impossible to find it in the store. So it was also just for the image, but it was not, the reality of the brand. So that's really it's a discussion, right now in the industry. And so it's also an opportunity to make something different, And some example here. So this also French designer, Esther Manas, who really want to find a solution to this. And so it's not only making a contemporary creative brand that would, with a wide range of sizes, but a solution was to create a brand that one size for all, which is, of course, technically very difficult to do. But she found some solution, and of course, it drive her to find new way of doing garments, or new aesthetic and new designs and everything. So now she's a kind of reference, Every time a brand, even like a more commercial brand, want to open his size range, she's a bit the expert and so she made a lot of collaboration with different brand. Another example, which is interesting, because at the moment discussion is more about women's wear, but we see that this question is also now coming for men, and so we have this also very successful brand at the moment, Louis Gabriel Nucci, who mixed the two questioning, how to give another image of masculinity, and also this idea that how you can create garment for any type of body. Same thing with this Creole brand. So it's from also a French designer called Vincent Frédéric Colombo. He's from Guadeloupe, so there is also a mix of Caribbean culture, inspiration, and also maybe a cultural point of view on what is masculinity in this culture, mixed also with this idea of body consciousness and body positivity and everything. And also one of at the moment, I would say the hypest brand in New York, in the New York Fashion Week. So this brand made by this designer from Mexican origin, Willy Chavarria, which is a bit the same, It's also really inspired by the South American culture. And also this idea of, trying to create garment for any type of body. And it's also interesting that it can just become also, I would say, inspiration, even if it's not not an answer to the issue, but just a way to question, the issue. And another it's really the star of the I mean, creative fashion industry at the moment, Durand Lantnik. Of course, here, I mean, all these models, they are like standard sizing models, but all the garments are made for recreate, you know, different type of body. So it's also a more conceptual approach, but is very, very successful right now. Even if, of course, from this very conceptual point of view, now the idea is how to create also a brand that could become maybe a bit more commercial, you know. And so if we mixed everything, we have also some interesting brands that are mix, you know, this approach on the body positivity, sustainability, but also try to create a new kind of model and try not to just follow the rules created by this fashion industry, because all the previous brands I showed you, they are part of, I mean, one of the big fashion week. They follow like the seasonal collectioning. They are part of big trade show and things like that. Here, it's a brand that also try to not only find solution towards the product, but also by the way they produce, sell, and imagine garments. So this brand created by a Japanese designer called Saboshi Kuwata, and there is no real season, you know, it's just doing products, no gender product that are a bit transformable so that you can keep them for years. And so it doesn't participate to the fashion weeks and everything, but also from that, it gained a lot of visibility, and because it tried to create a new model. Another example is this brand called By Walid. So the idea is also it's based on upcycling, but on reuse and recycle only very precious fabric, old embroideries and everything, making unique pieces. So, and because it's unique and there are also this precious know-how and things like that, it's really a luxury garment. But it's the same, you know. It doesn't participate to the fashion week. It doesn't participate. There is no real collection. It's just making the garment when he found new interesting product. Is distributed in one department store in the United States. Otherwise, he has his own showroom in London. And also because it's very exclusive, he met great success with this idea that or only the happy few know this brand. So it's not even a question of price, because of course it's very expensive, but it's also the idea that, you know, it's really the name that few people share together because they are able to understand, you know, this aesthetic and everything. And same thing with this, I don't know if we can call it a brand, Amy Revere. So she's from United States, she's from Texas actually, and she just doing fashion as an artist. So she realized the garment from scratch. So she just buy the fibers that she dyed or anything like that. Then she wave on this loom in a way that so that she has very minimal waste at the end, and she create these unique pieces that are just sold in just one place, one gallery in London. It's crazy expensive, but since it's unique and it's can be seen more as piece of art, and of course it's completely timeless, it's no gender and everything, it's very successful. And she can't, and she doesn't want, I think, meet the demands, and so she just, you know, it's of course create the desire and everything. And it's the same thing, she doesn't participate to any fashion week, she doesn't make no show or anything. It's just, you know, as an artist, showing in one place and let, you know, the few people starting to talk about her and everything. So that's some example of new model, and to show that, of course, the fashion industry is very now has its own rules and everything. So most of the brand, they just are insert in this industry. But when you have a very strong aesthetic style or on also a very strong concept, and you love risk, you can also try to create new models, you know, and not just following the rule as they are now. That's my thoughts. So I thank you for your attention, and now we will continue to discuss with the designer.